It was a good fit for me. Actually, I got my name from Jack Catton, retired Air Force two-star, who was my first weapons officer in FTU. And he kind of named me that in FTU. I went to my first squadron and nothing really stuck. And then when I came to Cadena on my second tour, Jack was there as a wing weapons guy and mailed me name tags, said mobile, and I just said okay and went from there. You can see I'm a Tennessee guy. My dad worked for the university. I went to UT from kindergarten through college, literally. And I thought going to college meant going to UT. I didn't know you had many choices. I walked on a year trying to play football, and I found out I was small and slow but lazy. Other than that, I had everything they were looking for in a Division I football player. I was a good student when I had to manage my time playing football as a freshman in engineering school. I was a terrible student as a sophomore in engineering school when I had too much time on my hands. I worked as a janitor. I did some other things, and I needed help to finish school. So I walked into the cooperative education office that UT ran, like a lot of universities do, where they place you with industry so you can work a quarter, save enough money to pay for the next quarter school, go back to work at the same place in the same office, save enough, to pay for the next quarter school. And they, luck of the draw, they placed me with NASA down at Kennedy Space Center. And I had been a space buff kid. I cut out all the newspaper clippings of Gemini and Apollo. I watched it all on television. My teachers would let me do all that in elementary school, but I kind of lost track of that. I got interested in it again down there, and one of my friends, one of the other co-op students, was learning to fly in Patrick's Aero Club, and I went for a backseat ride with him in an old T-41. Seemed fun. I could afford to fly once a week the quarters I was down there in the Aero Club. And so over about a year and a half, I got a private pilot's license. Nice. And then a couple of the guys I worked with were retired Navy pilots. And they said, Mike, you could sit here, you could come to work with us straight out of school and, pretty soon be sitting here watching the clock with us, waiting to go home every day, or you could go have some adventure first, and you should go do that. And we can come back and talk some more about it, but that's how I got interested in a military flying career. I actually took the oath with the Navy in a delayed enlistment program in like 1979. That didn't work out, and so I joined the Air Force through OTS in 1981.
Dodged the Navy bullet. I mean, you'd be floating around on boats and doing all sorts of terrifying things.
Yep.
Interesting. So no real exposure from the family or anything like that. It kind of seems like happenstance that you landed into that and reignited the aviation bug and then pursued a path there.
Yeah, my dad was a Army officer. He did just a year or so active duty when I was born, and then did a 32-year career as a reservist. And so I knew a little bit about military life, but nothing about the Air Force. I got recruited a little bit by the Air Force Academy as a football player, but they talked football. They didn't really talk flying. And so, I came into it late. And as a result of that and having to co-op and spend those extra quarters working, I joined the Air Force at 24 instead of 22, which I think I was a little more grown up and a little more mature maybe than some of the guys were in my pilot training class. I was pretty focused on what I wanted to accomplish.
I saw that being a FAPE. Anyone who came in even if it was 24, 25, 27, there's a big difference than someone rolling in straight from college. Yep. And it usually made a difference as far as the performance. Obviously, you did well during pilot training. Went on to go fly the Mighty Eagle. And at that point, you were the Eagle right out of pilot training, correct?
I was. Yeah. And, I had some great help. And one of the things, I'll interject here with occasionally is, I was in the Air Force almost 40 years, 39 and a half years. And, I got to fly, and I ended up retiring as a 4-star. And people think, maybe there was some preordained path, or, you could see that was going to happen when you were a lieutenant. But I think that's really not true. I think at every step along the way, there was somebody who took a risk to give me a chance, to prove what I could do, from the recruiter that helped me get into the Air Force with a vision waiver in one eye that was 20/25, to my T-37 flight commander who, when I was running up against the borders of being airsick, called me in and asked me if I still wanted to keep doing it. Said it must be rough. Said, you're flying good, but you don't have to do this. I'm like, oh no, I want to do it. And so he walked out into the flight room with all the IPs, all the students were gone, and said, hey, everybody, Lieutenant Holmes doesn't get sick anymore. You understand what I'm telling you? And everybody nodded. And I was out of the airsick protocols. I flew my contact check ride with a bag in my hand, and in between the spin and the spin prevent, I puked without saying anything. Flew with my knees, climbed back up, did the other one, landed. The check pilot never said anything, and it went away after that when I quit worrying about it.
What do you think, or can you pin it to something where people are willing to help you out? Because I mean, I think my career is a testament to that. I've had a lot of people who've looked out for me and helped me out along the way. And those stories you just mentioned in pilot training, I jump back to being a FAPE. There's a difference. There's some people, there's always been people that struggle going through pilot training, hands down. But for me, if I was going to answer, it's like almost like an attitude and the way someone carried themselves. You can tell if someone's passionate and they're willing to put in the work to get through it, versus if they're getting beat down and they're not putting forth that effort. It's a lot tougher to give that person, an extra bit of help. I mean, is there something you think you could pin that to?
Well, I think you're right. We tend to love people that have a burning desire to do the same things we do. And you just got to be careful that you don't end up only helping people that look like you, but search out the people that have that burning desire, no matter where they came from or what they look like, or, what their mom and dad did or what their race or sex is. And I had certainly had people do that for me. When I came back to Columbus 20 years later as the ops group commander, I had to interview everybody who was being eliminated or was quitting. And, you could tell a difference most of the time. By the time people got to me, it was a relief to them when I told them they didn't have to go anymore. And those guys didn't need somebody to intervene for them. And a lot of the people that had that burning desire never made it to see me because somebody gave them help, spent extra time teaching them, spent extra time working with them, gave them the opportunity to catch up and get better. And I think we like people that have a burning desire to do what, we want to do.